well, let's begin with this. This is the more functional. Everybody's asking me about it. One, which is a Bill Simmons take on his podcast on how ESPN will fuck up inside the NBA. It will lead us. We'll be on a glide path to the first of our beefs right here, Ryan. But I thought that his prediction was quite substantive. Bill Simmons's was, and it's easy to clip the headline and go, well, Bill Simmons resentful of ESPN, hating, that type of thing. But it was really more from the perspective of somebody who's been on TV and knows the media business. And it was quite a practical critique that the way ESPN does commercial breaks, how they can't just let things breathe. They're on a tighter schedule. They're not the mom and pop shop that TNT was, where the guys on Inside the NBA could just riff and riff and riff and riff. The flow will be disrupted, and it's not going to work unless there's some massive overhaul of how ESPN does things. So it was quite the negative prediction of how ESPN would absorb that much beloved quarter-century long crew. And I have to say it was pretty persuasive. What did you think?
Okay, so Simmons was on NBA Countdown for 2 years, and he knows how that specific program works, or at least worked. And it's something that he's been a critic of from before he was on the show to during the show to after the show. And I mean, so far his criticism has been right, because they haven't been able to keep a cohesive unit on that program since before, during, and after when he was on it. And the necessity to even bring in the Inside the NBA is in many ways a vindication of what his criticism has been over the years. So I'll take it kind of piece by piece. Pre-game and halftime, this show is going to get disrupted by commercial breaks. It has to, by the economics of Disney and ESPN, what they're paying for this package. The price of the brick is going up next year. Like the NBA rights fees are tripling. I don't know off the top of my head how much more Disney and ESPN are paying, but it's going to be more, and they're going to need to sell ads and sponsorships against that to get some of it back. And so there are going to be a lot of commercials during pregame and halftime. There's no way around that.
Yeah.
Here's where I think that he might be off on what's going to happen, though. Nobody really cares about the pregame and what they say at halftime. There's never a time where anybody gets a takeoff at halftime on any of these shows that is really profound and makes you think like something unbelievable is going to happen. The closest I've come to getting something like that was like Belichick on Manning cast, and he'd be on during the second quarter. And that's different than, that halftime circular thing. But he would be like, oh boy, Derrick Henry's going to run for 1,000,000 yards in the second half. And I would go and live bet his like high total. That's a diversion. But so post game, they're going to figure out a way to let these guys cook after the game. A lot of these games are on ABC, and that kicks straight to news. So it's not going to be on ABC. I think that they should just tell these local affiliates to go jump in a frozen river, and we're showing an hour of the post-game show after like the sports that millions of people are watching, instead of cutting to like, oh, well, yeah, your diversion just ended. Let's talk about the guy who got shot in your city. And that's the way a lot of these sports are now. But they're not going to. They're going to kick to local news. So that leaves it to an ESPN discussion. Okay, what do they do with SVP? What do they do with Inside the NBA? I don't know. If I were in charge of this, what I think I would do is I would have SVP on ESPN, and then put Inside the NBA on Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, and the ESPN direct-to-consumer streaming service, and let them go like, okay, you're going to have to pay to subscribe to them, but is going to be limited commercial interruption, and you got to go onto the platform we own and spend a lot of time on it. That's what I would do.
That does seem to be a way to actually split the baby and have it live. That seems like a really workable solution. But in a way, I almost feel like the inside guys are tipping their hand to the trouble ahead because they're doing this highly emotional send-off of leaving TNT, which I get because there have to be professional relationships, personal relationships. There has to be these nostalgic attachments, but it almost seems bigger than that. It almost seems like they're doing more of the send-off and doing more of the eulogizing than, hey, it's about to be exactly what it was where we're going, so you need not be sad. Instead, it really seems like at some level, and they could be wrong, but it seems as though at some level they think the magic will be lost.
Yeah. So, I mean, in some sense, you have to feel for a lot of these people behind the scenes who have had precarious employment futures, honestly, for 2 years now, and even dating back because this company has merged and been acquired 1,000 times and everybody wants to get their own guys in, and who knows, like, you can survive in advance, but now it is the end, and their game producers are going to have to find other jobs. We don't know who they're going to keep from the studio team and who they're not. And so even though, yeah, we're going to get Kenny, Charles, Ernie, and Shaq next year, they don't know who they're going to be working with for all intents and purposes. I do want to address like another part of what like Simmons was implying was that they're going to be neutered by these ESPN content standards. I don't think so. I think that the way that they've shown a backbone with Pat McAfee and all of the stuff Stephen A. Smith says on platforms that aren't ESPN, they just have really turned into a totally different company from when Simmons was there, and any little tweet or minor infraction could turn into like a huge internal war with him. I think he's looking at an ESPN that has evolved, and under Jimmy Pitaro, Burke Magnus, they're going to give these talents that they paid a lot of money for leeway to be the men that they are.
Yeah, it's really
well.
more
Here's what I don't know. What if that incident of like the Barkley arrest comes up like again, and he's a member of Disney? That's a question I don't know about how they would handle that one. Like if that happened when he worked for them, but in terms of like just pure like content, I think that they're going to be fine to cook how they want to cook.
I mean, there might be some value that has not been mined from them if you can really let them go rated R and some of these other platforms, should they want to do it. So many people have said that a huge part of the mission, a huge part of the effort on Inside the NBA is just preventing Charles Barkley from cursing, because once it's cut to commercial, it gets blue real quick. And maybe people want that kind of thing, that spicy product. And ESPN seems more amenable to it and wants a little bit of the danger from a Pat McAfee.